Hello and welcome to today's NetBeez live demo. Today we're talking about how you can configure monitoring alerts. So let's see what an alert is. An alert is an event that is originated when an object deviates from its normal status. In the case of NetBeez, an alert can be generated, for example, when a test returns no value or degraded measurement from its baseline. We have three different type of alerts in NetBeez. The most common is monitoring tests like ping, DNS, HTTP, and traceroute. They can generate alerts, and we'll see shortly more about this. Another something else that can generate an alert is the dashboard when it loses connectivity to an agent, probably because the remote agent went down or the remote network location where the agent is installed lost connectivity to the internet and to the dashboard. And the last type of alert can be generated when a Wi-Fi agent, disconnects from a Wi-Fi network, another type of critical alert in this case. So to generate alerts and define alerts, there are the alert profiles. We have two methodologies to define alerts. The one up-down probably is the one that everybody's familiar with. These are critical alerts that are generated when a test completely fails, so doesn't return any results for X consecutive times or instances of the test. And then there are performance alerts that are more like when things work and don't work, and maybe is more troublesome for the user, end user. So these are warning alerts that are generated when, for example, a test returns degraded measurements. So how can you detect degraded measurements? There are really two ways, based on historical data and based on fixed threshold like SLA. In the case of historical data, you have to keep in mind that for each test, NetBeez, the dashboard by default, generates many averages. So we can detect kind of performance degradation by comparing the short-term average against its long-term average. So the short-term average is like take the test result for the last 15 minutes or 1 hour or 4 hours and compare it with the long-term average, also called baseline. So the baseline is 1 day, 1 week, or better, 1 month. So by comparing these two values, you know if something right now is going bad, bottom line. And the comparison is done by comparing the short term with the long term and against a multiplier, right? Could be 1, could be 2, or could be 3 times. We'll see a little more example later in the demo. The second methodology to detect performance degradation is also used for service level agreement, and it's based on threshold. So we take the short-term average of a test and you compare that to a fixed value, also called watermark. So if this short-term value crosses the watermark or goes above or below, then we generate an alert. All right. Enough said, I'll show you now a quick demo for the alerts in NetBeez. So this is the NetBeez dashboard you're familiar with. I'll go on the top right, the NetBeez settings. You can see here, and I'm already in the anomaly detection section. Here there are many things. We'll talk in the next maybe episode about the incidents. Here you see alert profiles. So you can see that here we have already some alert profiles defined. When you see the checkmark on default, it means that that alert profile will be applied to your monitoring targets by default. NetBeez comes typically with the up-down alerts already pre-configured for ping, DNS, HTTP, and traceroute, and then you can build your own performance alerts. So let's see how you can do this. You click on Add Alert, then you name the alert. Test. You pick the alert type. As I was saying, we have the up-down, so X consecutive times a test that doesn't return any result. So you can see here ping, DNS, HTTP, and traceroute, and here you put the X, the number of times. Then we have the performance baseline, which is takes into account historical data. So what are the metrics that you can monitor? Packet loss, round trip time for ping, failed test and lookup time for DNS, HTTP number fail of test or response time, and then for traceroute, number of failed traceroute or average hop count, if that changes. So let's take a simple like round trip time. So I can compare my round trip time for the last 15 minutes, and I can say if that is greater than 2 times maybe my monthly average, then trigger an alert. So in this case, let's imagine you have your round trip time in average is for the, your monthly average is 50 milliseconds. And let's imagine that now you have, because of rerouting, going through a longer route, and this round trip time increases to 350 milliseconds. With this condition, you would be able to detect that specific problem. In the watermark, things are a little more easy and straightforward. As you can see here, you take, for example, with the round trip time for ping, you take what short-term average you want to take into account, and then you can say if it's larger than 100 milliseconds, then trigger an alert. Now you can see here, use percentile mean metric. This is a little more advanced concept, but the bottom line is that when you have a lot of measurements, sometimes you might have outliers that skew your average. So what you want to do is generally like filter those out, because they're like black swans in your measurement. So by using the percentile mean metric, basically it removes, it takes the 95 percentile of measurement and removes the head and the tail. So the very low values or the very high values of your measurement. So again, your average is normalized and is not skewed by outliers. Okay, so now that I've created a live demo test, you see here my profile. Then, since I didn't make a default when I go and create a target, let me see here, for example, create a test target, live demo test, yeah, the netbeez.net. Now add my test here. And then I select some agents to be included in this target. And then I scroll down below. You can see that my live demo here was not included in the target because I didn't check as default. And in this case, I can include it by checking it during the creation. You can also, I cancel now. You can also add in an existing target and apply your new alert profiles. There you go. And then click Save. Okay, this concludes today's live demo. I hope this was beneficial to learn more about configuring alerts in NetBeez. If there is anything, feel free to reach out or reply in the comment section, or come and visit our website at netbeez.net.